Don't make a fuss over being hit. If you can file a damage report, do it. My Mill, who had beaten me, a pregnant woman, and caused my water to break, laughed wickedly and said, "This Mill is the kind of person who can do the unthinkable with impunity." She was concerned about my husband and seemed to think I was incapable of doing anything about it. So I said to her, "Yes, I will gladly sue you." When I said that, my Mill was surprised and exclaimed with a look on her face that said, "What? Wait." There was no longer any reason for me to hold back, because I am Victoria, a 32-year-old housewife. I have been married to Brandon, an office worker, for 10 years. I am currently 9 months pregnant and almost to the last month of pregnancy. After fertility treatment, we finally have a child. I and my husband were in the same club at university and became close friends. He was cheerful, kind, and considerate of those around him, and was very popular among his peers. I also had a liking for him. So I was very happy when Brandon asked me to go out with him and proposed to me around the time I graduated from college. He got a job at a prestigious company and asked me to support him at home. So I became a full-time housewife after marriage. My in-laws were kind to me, but I was surprised that Brandon was their only son and that my Mill had high expectations of him. You know, even when he was little, he was very smart, just like me. He went to a top university and worked for a top company. I must have raised him well. I thought to myself that I had went to the same university as him. But my Mill didn't mention it, and instead emphasized to me how lucky I was to have married Brandon. "Well, since we don't live together and only see each other occasionally," I said, "that's right. I am lucky to be married to a wonderful man like Brandon." I said in that tone of voice, and she seemed to be contented. My married life with Brandon has been very enjoyable. I am a stay-at-home housewife, but on the days when Brandon comes home early from work, he shares the housework, and on our days off, we go to the movies or camping, and we are happy. However, there was one problem. We couldn't have children. In the 3rd year of our marriage, my Mill began urging me to have children every time we met. "When in the world are we going to be able to see our grandchildren? I'm sorry. We'd like to have one, too. My friends all have grandchildren. I'm embarrassed. I am embarrassed to be told that. We would like to have children, too. But what can't be done, can it? Besides, we don't want children just to make my Mill look good." "Don't say that. Victoria says she wants children, too. It's a gift. Even without children, they are getting along well, so that's fine." My Phil was always helpful in stopping my Mill from making mindless comments. A kind and attentive person. Brandon was like my Phil. However, we wanted children too. So we discussed it and decided to undergo fertility treatment. It was a long road from there, and we kept going to the hospital, almost failing several times. Finally, we found out that we were pregnant. When I reported it to Brandon, he said, "Really? That's great. I'm so happy." After that, he told me, "Don't run, don't carry heavy things." He was in a frenzy. Brandon took good care of me, and my joy doubled. Both my pal and my father were happy about my pregnancy. We were all looking forward to the birth of this cute baby. However, the joy did not last long. My husband was asked to go abroad for work. He was told that it was not a very safe place and that if he were to be transferred, it would be to a place by himself. "Victoria just got pregnant, and I'm worried about her. So I'm going to try to negotiate with them to see if I can refuse the transfer. My husband is thinking of turning down the overseas assignment for me, but it has always been Brandon's wish to work overseas. I decided to push for my husband's sake. I'll be fine. I'll stay here because I have to have a baby. But Brandon, this is a great opportunity for you, so you should take the plunge and accept the offer." But I was worried that something might happen to Victoria when you're alone. In the meantime, my pal proposed that they would take care of me. My Phil had long since retired from his job, and my Mill was a stay-at-home mom and said she had time on her hands. They also said it would be better if I had help raising my child after born. My mother is deceased and my father is the only family I have left, so I was in no position to rely on him for the birth, so it was a welcome suggestion. To be honest, although my Phil is kind, I have a bit of a problem with my Mel who says whatever she thinks. However, it seemed to be the best way for my husband to go abroad without any worries. Well, 2 months later, my husband moved out on his own and I moved in with my pal. You better get moving and do some housework to lighten the load. Is that how it's supposed to be? Yes, it is. I'll be fine. I'm already in the stable period, so maybe I should move. My Phil is protective of me. But she began to pick on me when he was not looking. My Mill pushed me to do all the housework and was sarcastic. First of all, you should be more grateful that you can marry Brandon, who is an elite. I don't know what's so good about a girl like you who has no merit at all. Brandon takes good care of me, so I'm grateful to him. I don't like that. You talk about my son as if he were your own. When I was cooking, she slapped my hand from the side and said, "You cut it wrong. Cut more finely. Do it again." She would scold me. I had never been slapped by anyone before, so I was surprised even if it was a light slap on the hand. Besides, it was unthinkable for me to be slapped on the hand holding a knife. Because of this, I was afraid to cook with my Mill watching over me. Besides, she would step on my feet. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't notice your foot." "No, it's okay," I replied. But it was obvious that she was stepping on my foot intentionally. My husband called me frequently and I wanted to talk to him about my Mill. But I lied because I did not want to further worry my husband, who seemed to be having a hard time with his unfamiliar overseas assignment. "How's life at my parents' house? Aren't you concerned about them?" "Oh, yes. They are taking good care of me. They are very kind to me." "Oh, yeah. That's good." Now that I think about it, that was not good. My husband said to my Mill, "Mom, I hear you are nice to Victoria." "Thank you." Because he thanked her, she assumed that I would not tell him what she did to his wife. Then the wife's snoring and her behavior of trying to hurt me got worse. One day, when I tried to go to the kitchen, she kicked me in the butt, telling me to walk faster. "Please stop." She became angry at me for rebelling against Mel. After that, she was kicked more and more often. One time, I was making low-sodium simmer dishes for my Phil, who has high blood pressure. My Phil said it was delicious, but "Your cooking doesn't taste good. You should season it more strongly, but I think it's better for your body to have a lighter flavor." Shut up. As soon as she said that, she tried to pour a large amount of salt on the dishes. When I told her to do it with her own food, I suddenly felt a shock on my cheek. She slapped me on the cheek with all his might. For a moment, I didn't understand what had happened. But then I saw my Mel with her arms raised in a devilish pose, glaring at me. "You're my DIL, but you're so cocky." My Phil, who happened to witness the scene, became angry with my Mel. "What are you doing to Victoria? You beat her. You always take her side like that. It's terrible. Victoria is pregnant." "I don't care about that. What's wrong with scolding my DIL?" Suddenly, the couple got into a quarrel. I, who was in a state of shock from the beating and in a state of abandonment, watched the situation in a daze. "Brandon, I might not make it. Come home soon." After that, there was nothing I could do about my Mel, who was cursing, kicking, and hitting me when my Phil was not looking. No matter what was said, I tried to ignore it and think nothing of it. If I didn't, I couldn't mentally hold it together. I seemed to be on the edge. Then, my husband temporarily returned to US for business at the head office. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, but my husband was surprised to see me. "Victoria, what's wrong? You've lost a lot of weight, and you look pale. Is something wrong?" My Mill interrupted in a panic. "Victoria was sick with morning sickness, but the baby is doing fine." "Morning sickness? She is already in the 8th month of pregnancy, right? Does it last that long?" "You know, it depends on the individual. Men don't know." However, my husband seemed to sense something was wrong with me. And when we were alone, he urged me to tell him the truth. Unable to resist, I tearfully told him the truth. I told him that my Mel had been bullying me, hitting me, and kicking me every day. My husband's eyes widened in surprise and he was furious. My husband told me something and I made up my mind to stop putting up with her. My husband blamed my Mel. "Mom, you are terrible. If you're going to be so hard on Victoria, I can let you live with us. Brandon, that's not true. It's not true. Are you saying Victoria is lying? Victoria is just mentally unstable because of her pregnancy. Dad also said he saw her mom beat Victoria once. He is mistaken too. It was just a fight, but it won't happen again. I'll put up with it. How could she come up with one excuse after another? In a way, I was impressed by how well my Mel talked. All of them were lies. My husband believed me, but he could not blame her one way or the other because he had not actually seen the scene. Also, my Phil had not seen it since that time, and since he had no proof, he seemed unable to say more. However, I don't think my Mel will change her attitude. My husband, Phil, and I consulted with each other and decided to take certain measures, and my husband went back to work overseas again. For a while after that, my Mel stopped hitting and kicking me, although she did talk to me in a sarcastic way. I felt a little relieved and entered the 9th month of pregnancy. However, in my Mel's mind, her hatred for me seemed to be growing. Otherwise, there was no way she could have done that. One day, out of the blue, the incident happened. It was when my Phil was away at a town meeting. For some reason, my Mel was furious and yelled at me. My blouse is wrinkled because of the way you hung the laundry. What are you going to do about it? Oh, really? I'm sorry. It's not enough. You're embarrassing me like this. I understand. I'll run the iron it. You really are a useless wife. Your child must be just like you. I don't want a grandchild like that. I was really pissed off that she was talking so badly about my child. If you don't like it so much, next time, please do your own laundry. What? Immediately after that, I felt a sharp pain in my head. My Mel hit me on the head with her fist. I stumbled and fell down, crashing into a pillar. Water was pouring from my feet and spreading to the floor. The impact of my fall caused my water to break. Water was broke. What should I do? I won't forgive you if anything happens to my baby. I shouted, glaring at my Mel. My Mel heard me and grinned and said, "Don't make a fuss over something as trivial as being hit. If you can file a damage report, do it, but we don't have any proof." She seemed to be under the mistaken impression that I couldn't do anything. So I told her, "Yes, I will gladly sue you." My Mel was surprised and exclaimed with a look of surprise on her face. What? Wait, there was no longer any reason for me to hold back, because I promised my husband that I would. In fact, my husband had told me that if she ever did anything to me again, I would report it to the police. My husband had asked my Phil to keep an eye on her to make sure that didn't happen. But he was not here today. My husband had been beaten and kicked when he got bad grades as a child. He said that since he has been working for a top company after graduated from a top university, she no longer does that. And he thought she was being nice to his wife. But if she is doing to his wife what she did to his old self, he can forgive her. My Phil is also keeping an eye on her, but not all the time. So we decided to install security cameras. Neither my Phil nor my husband trusted my Mel. The evidence of her hitting me would be on video. I will call the police in an ambulance. Police, what are you talking about? Are you going to turn your Mel in? I will. If you do that, Brandon will be embarrassed. Are you sure you want to do that? Brandon told me to call the police if you treats me badly. What? No way, stop. My Mel grabbed me and forcibly took my cell phone away from me. You should be cold as it is. I don't want your grandchildren. I won't call an ambulance. I felt a chill of dread run down my spine at the sight of my Mel looking like a prawn. Why do you do such terrible things to me? I can't forgive you for being cherished by Brandon and my husband. I wish you were gone. I could hear my Mel's voice coming from far away. I felt dizzy and my stomach ached. If this continued, not only was I in danger, but so was the child in my belly. I had to get to the hospital as soon as possible. I thought, shouting at the top of my lungs, "Somebody help me! Come quickly! What's wrong? Are you okay?" Just then my Phil came home. He helped me up and called an ambulance. Next, the police. My Mel shouted when she heard his voice. "Honey, please don't call the police. I didn't do anything. Victoria just fell down by herself." "No, she hit me and I fell down." My Phil glared at her with a sad face. I believe you, Victoria. What? You say you don't believe me, your wife? We are a married couple, aren't we? I've been a married couple for many years, and I've seen the darkness in your heart. I can't believe you. I'm sorry, as you can see, but please don't call the police. The only way to stop you is to tell the police. My Mill, who had lost her pretense, now turned to me and said in tears, I'm sorry, Victoria. Please forgive me. I'll be nice to you from now on. I don't want to get caught by the police. Help me, I said coldly to my Mill, who was on her knees and clinging to me. You tried to take not only my life but also the life of my baby. I cannot forgive you. I was then taken to the hospital by ambulance. My Phil called the police and they took her in. The security cameras had video and audio of her beating me. And there was also a doctor's note from the doctor who took care of me. So my Mill was sentenced to prison. My Phil divorced my Mill. Even though she got out of the cage, my Mill had no place to go back to. I gave birth to a baby girl safely. My husband's single person assignment will soon be over and he is scheduled to return home. After the birth, my Phil kindly cared for me and hired a housekeeper. The baby is growing up well in this blessed environment. I plan to propose to my Phil that we live together in the new house when my husband returns. I am looking forward to the day when our family of 4 will live together.